in church.
And that's why some people, after grief, some people never come back to church.
Some are just afraid to talk to the spiritual leaders in church because of shame.
Some of those engineered, very famous statements have no biblical backing.
It's true.
Indeed, welcome to the show here at BizCheck. My name is Alan Aoko. Here in Nairobi, we are speaking Siaya County. And why Siaya County, you might be wondering? We are having the Siaya Investment International Trade Conference just to talk about the investment opportunities that Siaya has and what are we looking forward to in the blue economy of Siaya and also the mining sector of Siaya. Don't forget the agricultural sector, and also there's an upcoming nuclear sector that Kenya has been mulling to have, to close the gap of energy. And of course, I am not alone in this small interview that we have arranged for you. We want to talk in depth about what's going to happen in this conference that is slated to happen in October 14th to 17th as we look forward to bringing in visitors into the country and into Siaya County just to see the potential of this county. Remember, this investment conference, Siaya's investment conference, is the first one ever to happen for Siaya. And as you can see in the poster behind me, the President William Ruto is set to also join this conference and open it with the county governor, James Orengo. It is the Siaya International Trade and Investment Conference, or CITICO, which is happening on the 14th to 17th October 2025, where Siaya is saying it is ready for investment and it is looking to be an investment destination to transformative growth through trade and investment. And we are just going to cue in the governor once he gets here. We are going to talk to him in depth as the chief executive of the county of Siaya, just to talk about the statistics of Siaya. Remember, Siaya contributes about 1% to the GDP of the country, and the per capita of Siaya County is about 130,000 shillings, which is slightly below the national average, which is about 300,000 per capita, 300,000 shillings per capita. And the governor is saying he wants to raise this and bring more investments into this county to contribute more into Kenya's GDP, especially when you look at the contribution to GDP, which is currently at 1%. And we are looking at what Kenyans know normally is omena, which is actually sardines. They want to also exploit that and see how we can even export omena to destinations far afield, looking at agriculture, livestock, looking at the blue economy, which I've just mentioned. The county government of Siaya is saying that it is ready for investments, and we'll be there to show you on the 14th to 17th as we ready ourselves also just to welcome and see the potential that these counties have. Remember, devolution has brought this kind of opportunities where now county governments are empowered to showcase their prowess in terms of investments. And years on, counties like Siaya are saying that they're ready for investments and that people can now come in and invest in the various sectors as they try and open up, as this is the first one that Siaya County is going to showcase to the world, if I may say. But for now, we are waiting for the county government governor, James Orengo, to come and join us on set, and we will talk and unravel and unpack what we have for you, just to understand where Siaya County is coming from in an economic point of view. But for now, back to you.
Well, that is Alan Aoko, my colleague, coming to us from a meeting that is happening in Nairobi concerning the Siaya Investment Forum that is slated to take place from the 14th to 17th of October. And of course, even as those conversations continue, he shall be giving us the information as it comes. He's, of course, waiting for the governor, James Orengo, as well as other county officials to come into the meeting and just have a briefing with the media. So at that time, we will pick him and when he's ready. Now, this is BizCheck, as of course he said. Thank you very much for joining us and welcome. My name is Betty Kiptum and Caroline Njoroge is my colleague on the sign language interpretation. In the first hour of this conversation, we want to talk about gender mainstreaming in livestock. A bit of context, only 23% of Africa's women have access to credit, 15% have access to land. 62% of active women work in agriculture across Africa, yet they receive less than 40% of the income for agricultural activities, while contributing over 60% of the labor in the agriculture sector. And we just want to talk about what can be done to ensure that there is enhanced gender mainstreaming in the livestock industry. And to have this conversation with me is Nelly Njiru, who is a gender socioeconomic expert and research officer at International Livestock Research Institute, in short, ILRI. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Betty.
Karibu sana.
Thank you.
You work with a lot of women in terms of gender research and those the socioeconomic part of it. Just tell us what has been your experience and also comment on the numbers that I have just read. That's a dire situation considering 60% of labor, but they're earning less than 40% of the income. What is going on?
Great. So thank you very much, Betty, for inviting me here and for this wonderful conversation. I think it's a very critical conversation given that this is actually the last 5 years towards 2030. And so this is a critical moment to talk about mainstreaming gender equality in the livestock sector and towards, of course, achieving sustainable development goals. Mm-hmm. And as you have rightfully talked about, yes, indeed, women offer like 60% labor in the agricultural sector, but we see that they do not benefit. The benefits that they are accrued to them or that they realize are not as much as we expect. Why? Because they face a lot of challenges. They face a lot of barriers, yeah? And barriers stem from gender norms, the way socialization processes happens in the society. From the time a person is born, there's a lot of socialization, whether into being a woman, being a girl, being a man, and being a boy, and there are those expectations, yeah? There are those expectations on how a girl is expected to behave, how a boy is expected to behave. And so all these add up to really constrain women in terms of access to finances, as you have rightfully talked about, in terms of access to benefits, in terms of access to resources, in terms of decision making, which is a critical component. Mm-hmm. And we'll discuss further the details of this. Thank you.
In fact, it is time to discuss further the details of this.
Oh, okay.
Let us delve more into the challenges. I mean, in most of the African continent, as you said, women are brought up with these are your roles, men, these are your roles. But as they grow up, the women are providing a lot of labor. I mean, there's a lot of unrecognized or underrepresented labor that women provide. Please speak to that and what can be done to change this situation.
Thank you. So I first want to talk about livestock, because I think this is the safe space which I am comfortable in, and this is what we do at the International Livestock Research Institute. We do livestock research, and it's quite broad because we have colleagues that delve into animal health, genetics, feed and forages, livestock and environmental interactions, market and value chains, as well as gender and social inclusion in the livestock development. And mostly, especially in the arm of gender and social inclusion, we are talking about Sustainable Development Goal number 5, which is around women's empowerment. yeah, empowering all women and girls. Yeah, why? Because women face a lot of barriers in terms of gender norms, and I want to define what gender norms are really. Gender norms, basically, these are the acceptable and unacceptable behavior. Yeah, when a girl is born, the mothers socialize this girl into what is acceptable for you to do, what roles are acceptable and what roles are not acceptable for you to undertake as a girl. Yeah? So it defines, the socialization defines who does what, who owns what, who can take decisions, yeah, and who can benefit and who can lose. And we see that, unfortunately, women are most of the time not brought on the table when discussions are being made. Of course, now over the years, there's a lot of improvement, yeah, where now there's increasingly there's women's participation in decision-making arms, but we still see, especially in the rural areas in developing countries, women are still sidelined. Women do not access resources, and I'll give examples, and this is in most African contexts, yeah? I'll give an example of various projects that we have done, trying to understand these barriers that women face. I'll start from here in Kenya, yeah? Of course, ILRI is an international organization under the umbrella body CGIAR, yeah? And we see that, I'll give a few examples from Kenya, whereby, like in a project, which we call Interventions for Reducing and Redistributing Labor, I4RR, which is, we are undertaking it in Kenya and Ethiopia, we see that women face gender norms. And I have just defined what gender norms are. The acceptable or unacceptable behavior. Yeah? And if a woman or a man, can be for the man or for the woman, if a person deviates from what is socially acceptable, they face repercussions, consequences. They are sanctioned. Yeah? Because in the society we have gatekeepers, people who ensure that this acceptable behavior is followed, and anyone trespassing faces consequences. Yeah? And so we see, like in the livestock sector, it is in some communities, and this is in Kenya, in Ghana, in Tanzania, across the border, that it is unacceptable for women to own particularly large livestock. And when we talk about large livestock here, we're talking about cattle, camels, and even in some cases, the small ruminants, the sheep, goat, and also in some cases, poultry. Literature has it that it is easier for women to own poultry, chicken, and small ruminants like sheep and goats. However, we still see in some communities that it is completely unacceptable for a woman to own this livestock. What is the effect of such a norm? What is the effect of such an unacceptable behavior that a woman in this context cannot own livestock? Then that makes the woman so dependent on the men. The economic empowerment of this woman is not there. Yeah? Again, when it comes to accessing resources and services, we see that because you're not the owner, you cannot take decisions even when you want to access services. So even when, for example, livestock vaccines are availed by governments as a public good, we realize that women cannot access the services and the products like the livestock vaccines. Why? Because you're not the owner. You do not have ownership rights. You do not have decision-making rights. Yeah? This woman may also be constrained in terms of finances, because even in a few cases where they may be allowed to own, there in some communities, there is a norm, an acceptable behavior that a woman is not supposed to take the livestock to the market. And not just to the market, it could also be, it's not actually acceptable for this woman to sell even at farm gate.
Right. Allow me to just cut you short a little bit there. You'll continue in just a little bit. We want to take you to Sacco Society's regulatory authority, which is releasing its annual report, and the CS in charge of cooperatives, Wycliffe Oparanya, is currently speaking. Let's just listen into that.
The 2025 United Nations International Year of Cooperatives, which provides the action plan and deliverables during the celebrations and beyond. Secondly, the release of this report marks 10 years post the transition period of June 2014, when the full implementation of prudential regulation of SACCOs in Kenya commenced. Consequently, this is an occasion to critically take stock of the performance, operations, and activities of the SACCO industry in Kenya, not just over the last 1 year, but over the last 10 years. It is also an opportune time to reflect on the future outlook of the SACCO sector in the short, medium term, and taking into account national and international micro-policy development. There's no doubt that the regulated SACCO have made notable gains over the decade, and this is commendable. For instance, during this period, the number of members in regulated SACCOs grew to 7.4 million people in 2024 December, from just about 3.1 million in 2014, 10 years. The total assets grew to 1.1 trillion in December 2024 from 301.1 billion in 2014. And by end of August 2025, the total assets increased to 1.113 trillion. The total deposits grew to 749.43 billion in 2024 from just about 205.97 billion in 2014, and in August 2025, it had grown to 806.37 billion. It is also laudable to note from the report that the regulated SACCOs have embraced the use of ICT in their financial service delivery. This has widened the reach for financial services and products offered by SACCOs in Kenya, thereby deepening financial inclusion in the country. It is also noted from the report that regulated SACCOs are turning away from the use of traditional expensive brick and mortar branches to the more affordable, innovative, and technologically driven SACCO agencies to deliver financial services and products to their membership. In particular, I take keen note that there were 4,247 SACCO agents spread out across the country in 2024, and with transactions worth over 31.65 billion for and on behalf of regulated.
That is the Cabinet Secretary in charge of cooperatives, Wycliffe Oparanya, there speaking at the SACCO Societies Regulatory Authority, that is the SASRA report launch for this year. And of course, he's just giving a context of the state of SACCO societies in the country. Our very own reporters are on the ground, and they shall be filing a report on the outcomes of that particular report launch. Now we move to the SIAYA meeting where the SIAYA International Trade and Investment Conference will be happening in October 14th to 17th. There is a pre-planning meeting that is ongoing currently in Nairobi, and Alan Aoko is on the ground there. He is ready to speak to Elizabeth Adongo, who is the head of secretariat that is planning that particular conference. Alan Aoko, over to you.
Indeed, and you know we only do exciting things here on BizCheck, and today we are going to talk about Siaya County. And as alluded earlier, we are talking about investment opportunities in this county and what does it have to offer, given that this will be an inaugural investment conference that we are talking about. And I think I heard you introduce her. She is Elizabeth Adongo, who is the head of secretariat at Sitiko, to tell us more about this conference and the opportunities that are there, and why now, given this is inaugural all these years after devolution. And I'll just bring her now. Welcome to the show. Talk to us more about these exciting opportunities that you're trying to tell investors locally and beyond. What's happening at Siaya County?
Thank you very much for this opportunity. We're very excited in Siaya County to be holding our first inaugural Siaya International Trade and Investment Conference. This is the first time that Siaya is holding it, and it is been born on a journey where we've had serious reflection, and we're trying to rebrand ourselves as a county where investors can come. In order for us to be able to invite investors, we also had to look at the environment, the policy environment where the investors come. When investors come, there are a number of things they look at. Is the infrastructure ready? Is there a policy? Will they have the architecture to allow them to invest? And what are they coming to invest on? So the investment conference is on the 14th to 17th, which is a 4-day activity. And we have had the highest endorsement in the land. His Excellency the President will be coming, and Right Honorable Raila. And I think that's a very important signal that we are on the right track. In terms of what we are hoping to do, we've spent the last 12 months doing what we call profiling of bankable projects. And that has involved looking at what is it that an investor will look at and can invest in with proper returns. Are they feasible? Are they accepted by the community? Do we have the environment where those investments can come? And we've put together about 17 bankable projects, which total to about 2.3 billion in US dollars and about 325 billion Kenya shillings. And this cuts across all the sectors in agriculture, in the blue economy, in energy, and also across in health and in environment, amongst other areas. These projects are being profiled. We did this work with Ken Invest and UNIDO. They're also being uploaded for all investors, both local and international, to be able to look at. Critically for Siaya, I think we are very proud because Siaya has a very good global footprint in terms of the personalities that have emanated from Siaya, both alive and in the past. As you're aware, the last president of the United States, Barack Obama, hails from Siaya. We have our first Kenyan vice president, Jaramogi, and right now our key leader, Raila, is from Siaya. We've had people in academia, research, and therefore we are now trying to translate this global footprint and bring it back home so that we can develop a place. I think strategically where Siaya has been, it's not been your natural investment destination. It doesn't enjoy transit advantages like Kisumu, Nairobi, and other main towns. And therefore, we really had to be very intentional in why we're bringing people to Siaya. So we spent a number of months, we're working through steering groups. It's multi-agency, heavily supported by the Ministry of Investment, Trade, and Industry, and looking at key areas. But allow me to maybe point 4 or 5 key highlights of why this investment conference, one, is going to be like no other. The investment conference is specifically focused on matching investors with the opportunities on the ground. So we have an investor day, we'll be doing deal making, we'll be signing key agreements too. Siaya now is known, although we've been known as agriculture as our mainstay, we are now holding a very strategic position because we are being positioned as going to be the location for Kenya's nuclear energy. And as you know, energy is the big questions where people who really want to do serious investment will ask, are you ready? Is there energy that is affordable, accessible, and reliable? And therefore, we see that this is going to open a lot of potentials for us in terms of industries. We're looking at pharmaceutical manufacturing. We're looking at large industries. Second of all, in terms of agriculture, Siaya is unlocking its rice potential. We have quite a number of farms, and right now we have a mill, but there's a large area that we still haven't unlocked. The potential for Siaya rice is that we could be the third largest in the country. And more important, we are part of the National Rice Deficit Plan, where the government, both levels, are trying to ensure that we do not import and thereby also lose foreign exchange in the process. So a lot of effort has gone through that. Siaya is also big on cotton, and our cotton is the highest quality in the land. So we're doing what we're calling revitalization. We have a number of energy projects. Our blue economy is growing, and right now we are in the near stages of the 1.5 billion port that is being built that will connect Kenya to Uganda, and that's called Usenge Beach, being done through Kenya Ports Authority, and also looking at the expansive plans that Ports Authority has, what we're calling the integrated transport system across the lake, specifically to make movement of people and transport ready. So why are we doing it now? We're doing it now because the building blocks that needed to be there to attract investment are coming. And therefore, as we are saying it in Siaya, the time is right, and we are inviting everybody to come, participate, engage in conversation, come and visit our pavilions, come and see what is available, get involved in the many side events and plenary events. Asante. Yes.
Indeed, thank you very much for speaking to us. That has been a very comprehensive mapping of the investment opportunities in Siaya County. We have been speaking to Elizabeth Adongo, who is the Siaya International Investment and Trade Conference Head of Secretariat, just giving us an overview of why you should invest in Siaya. And I hope also, Betty Kiptum, your next batch of omena or sardines will come from this county. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Alan Aoko. They are coming to us from the pre-planning meeting for the Siaya International Trade and Investment Conference slated for the 14th to 17th. Of course, the county is seeking to tap investment into its bankable projects that have been mapped for the last 12 months. And as Elizabeth Adongo, who is the head of Secretariat, has said, that the county is ready for investment. And of course, we shall be following up on that particular event, even when it begins in Siaya. We come back to studio now and continue with our conversation on matters gender mainstreaming in the livestock industry. And I am speaking with Nelly Njiru, who is a gender and socio-economic expert as well as research officer at International Livestock Research Institute, that is ILRI. Thank you for staying with us.
Thank you, Betty.
Right. Before we took those particular links, you were telling us how gender norms are impacting women's access to the livestock industry.
Yeah, thank you, Betty. It's quite exciting to hear what is happening in Siaya and the planning that is going on. Yeah. And my big question is, even to the planning team, right, as they continue planning, what does it mean? And who does what? Even as they talk about rice, they talk about cotton industry. All these are agricultural, value chains. But now, who does what in those value chains? Coming from the gender lens, who does what in these value chains? Yeah, who decides? Who takes decisions? Who owns land, for example? Can women benefit? Even after all these efforts that are happening in the county, in Siaya County, what is the space of women? Are they really going to benefit? Yeah,
right. Those are questions that definitely must be asked, right?
Who is going to gain? What losses? So anyway, to take you back to our conversation. Yeah. So as we do livestock research, and trying to understand the various gender restrictions that face women, as I had earlier highlighted, women face various barriers in terms of access to resources, in terms of ownership of resources. And giving an example, land is a critical productive resource. Women lack access to land. Yeah, they actually lack ownership and also access in terms of deciding on its utilization. So, for example, and this has implications in terms of economic development or development outcomes. So for example, when a woman cannot access or cannot own, cannot decide about a piece of land in her household, what does that mean to the food security in that particular household? What does that mean to uptake of technologies, including seeds, including vaccines, including, you know? So these are some of the barriers that women face, yeah, which need addressing. And that is the work that we are doing at ILRI, amongst other components, that are like breeding, animal health, nutrition, feeds and forages. But in the team, we are trying to look at gender norms and to co-create solutions with partners to address the root causes of these barriers.
Right.
And I want to distinguish between some of or even still give a few examples of some of the barriers, yeah, using case studies from the work that we have done.
Sure, go ahead.
I've just mentioned land. I have mentioned restrictions around livestock ownership. I have also mentioned restrictions around access to market by women, yeah. So and also restrictions around making public declarations of assets that a woman may own, for example, livestock. And what that means, if a woman cannot publicly declare that I own this chicken, I own this livestock, I cannot take it to the market. A case study in Ghana, what we have seen, when a woman tries to take animals to the market, they will be interjected along the way. They will not even get to the market, you know, with the livestock. Why? They will be accused of having stolen their animals because socially it is unacceptable for
own this.
Exactly, you know. And so these are some of the issues that need addressing when we talk about mobility and participation in leadership and etc. We see restrictions, women's restrictions on mobility. Yeah, it is socially unacceptable for a woman to leave the house. Yeah, actually, the safe space for a woman socially in some communities is the house. Yeah, like recently, there's a study that is ongoing in Bungoma and also in Ethiopia, whereby the primary norm is that the house belongs to the woman, while the home belongs to the man. And so a woman can only own things that are inside the house, the utensils, the pots, you know, the cups, but cannot own
the house.
Things that are outside the house, including the house itself. She cannot even participate in its construction. Yeah, and what that means is that this woman will not access technologies. Yeah, will not access vaccines. Again, we also see that there is male dominance in service provision, whereby men mostly, like for example, if you look at the animal health service provision, that docket in some communities, here in Kenya and also in other countries like in Ghana, we see that that is a sector that is dominated by men. And what does that mean? To this woman farmer, where you have rightfully said, like in Kenya, women offer 45 to 60% of agricultural labor, but they cannot access the services. You know, I'm supposed to take care of this livestock, but I cannot access an animal health service provider. I cannot access a vet. Yeah.
Right.
So even if an animal is sick, I have to wait for my husband. A woman has to wait for the husband or for the man who has authority in that household to communicate to the vet, call them, and come and attend to the sick animal. There's time lapse there.
Right. Right, and of course, a lot of losses can happen.
A lot of losses can happen.
Right.
You know?
This reminds me of something that I saw, that a woman was very entrepreneurial. She set up a business. When it started thriving, it was decided that the husband takes over. That was the death of that business, right? So, I mean, from a policy environment, right? You talked about land. From a policy environment, we have had laws that now allow women to own land. But what actually determines that ownership is the cultural norms. So this is the hardest thing to change in humanity. What goes into changing the mentality of an entire society to see that, hey, we can co-own land, men and women equally? What goes into that?
Great. Thank you so much for that very important question. I want to answer that by giving examples of work that we are doing to address these restrictions that women face. Yeah? Policy included. But I want to first talk about approaches that we call gender transformative approaches. we abbreviate them as GTAs.
Okay.
And I want to compare that with gender accommodative approaches, which we abbreviate as GAA. Now, what do these two approaches do? Let me start with GAAs. GAAs are, or the gender accommodative approaches, these are approaches which try to navigate around the challenge. So for example, Betty, you have called a meeting for women, but the women cannot, and you've scheduled it in the morning hours. A time like now, women cannot attend your meeting. Why? Because they have household chores. You know, labor burden is the other challenge that women face, yeah?
Right.
Over and above the others I've talked about. They will not attend. So what you do as the facility, as the person organizing, you schedule that meeting at a time when women are likely to be available. For example, maybe in the afternoon, 2 to 4. And then immediately at 4, you make sure that your meeting is over.
Yeah.
You release them to go and attend to the other household chores. Because care work, again, falls on the shoulders of women, which is another barrier that women face to participating in economic activities. And therefore, what you've tried to do, you've not addressed the root cause of this challenge. You've tried to navigate around it. The root cause still stands, but then you're trying to navigate around it. Yeah? Some women will also try and circumvent the problem by being very innovative. So for example, if I cannot own a livestock, I will buy the livestock and I will not let my husband know. I will hide it in my maiden home or with my siblings, yeah? And, or even register it in my son's name or my son's name. Or bring the animal home and indicate that, oh, this is a gift from my parents for me to just milk for my children, you know, but it is not mine. Once I finish milking, I will return it to my parents or to my siblings, you know. So that's how they navigate. Now, you try, those are, you know, you will see like there are no maybe the animal health service provision is nominated by men, you bring in women. You know? However, are these women women vets, are they going to be accepted? Probably no, because probably there is a norm whereby women are not allowed to work as vets. Because, like in Ghana we saw, if a woman who is in her menses attends to my animals, there's a belief, and a strong belief that those animals are going to die. Yeah? Okay. And so, as a farmer, I will not allow a woman to come in and handle my animals, you know? So, gender transformative approaches, what do? They try to address the root causes, you know? Yeah. So, like I want to give an example of what we are doing. We engage community conversations, community dialogues, reflective community dialogues, where you bring both women and men together, sometimes separately, for them to question the status quo. You make them reflect on what is happening, and they question what their actions, their beliefs. And then that's a process of critical awareness. You're causing them to think about their issues and what is really, where are they emanating from. And then you probably also couple it or bundle it with gender trainings. You show them the losses that a household is about to encounter if a woman is not allowed to participate, if a woman is not allowed to take decisions, if a woman is not allowed to own resources, yeah? And what benefits they are likely to benefit from or to gain once they bring a woman on board in terms of ownership, in terms of participation, in terms of decision making, and the like. Now, community dialogues. There's other one that we have engaged, the other approach that we have engaged as a transformative approach is social media campaigns. You bring gender champions on studio, like what we are doing now, and they talk about these issues. They talk about the losses. They talk about the benefits of engaging women and allowing women to participate, of reducing those barriers, those restrictions that women are facing, yeah? You also engage champions. So for example, I talked about sanctions. Earlier I had talked about a woman who deviates, or even a man whose wife deviates, is likely to face sanctions. And I'll give an example there. This work is very interesting, yeah? Where you find that a man whose woman or wife is deviating from the norm, from the socially accepted behavior, how are they sanctioned? Other men, for example, the recent study that we've done in Bungoma, other men, especially young men, during circumcision period, yeah, which is a rite of passage, they will compose a song and integrate this man's name, and it will be sung in all public forums to shame him, to shame this man, you know. And what happens? the man will not support the wife in deviating the norm, you know? So it's just a way of silencing the deviators, including their husbands not to support their deviating wives. In Ghana, a woman who deviates, the women, colleague women, are going to compose a song which will be sung in all ceremonies where this woman is expected to attend. Why? To ridicule her. So what happens? A woman will not, no one is going to deviate from the norms because they shy off from facing such harsh repercussions. And therefore, bringing gender champions, and especially including men, as champions of change, to talk about these issues, to talk about the benefits, then they become, they are able to speak to their peers. Yeah? They are able to speak to other women and men, and they see, oh, actually, I think if we relaxed this norm, this restriction that we've put on women, I think we are about to benefit. Yeah, I'm going to talk about benefit in a short while.
Right.
Yeah.
I can see how passionate you are about this.
Yes, I am.
This topic. Yeah?
Yes, I am.
And it's good that you're actually in the work that matters. Do you see these efforts working?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
And all these case studies I'm giving are out of the work that we've recently implemented and currently also implementing. Like there's a project that ILRI is partnering with the Ripple Effect and is working in both Kenya and Ethiopia, the one I've just referred to, and they are using THM model. This is transformative household methodology whereby they sit a woman, this is household based.
Okay.
They get to a household, they sit the woman and the man together, a couple, and they talk about who does what in this house, who takes decisions. So they list things that the woman does, they list things that the man does, and they see the gap. So who is doing more? Who is deciding more? How can we bridge this gap? And you ask them, you're having a continuous conversation, yeah, with the two. And somehow, when you bring them to that realization, yeah, I would call it critical conscientization, yeah, critical reflection of what is happening, then you start a process of mind change. So it is actually working. We have seen in Ghana, in terms of the effect of these transformative approaches, whereby initially women were not allowed to own livestock. Initially, women were not allowed to make public declarations of animals they own. Initially, women were not allowed to go to take their animals to the market and sell. But now, upon implementing community dialogues, social media campaigns, and engaging champions, including religious leaders and community leaders, and they are now champions of change, we have seen change. Women began owning the livestock. Women began taking the livestock to the market. Women began making public declarations that they own this livestock. And what does that translate to? The impact of this is that at the woman starts to benefit because previously women are, you know, such women, when the barriers are not removed, yeah, the women are so dependent on men. In terms of food ingredients, we know food docket is a domain of women in most households in Africa. And now when a woman is economically empowered by the fact that she's able to rear animals, she's able to take the animals to the market as and when she needs the money, she can come back and buy food ingredients. So she can buy makeups. She can go to the salon, she can buy some outfit for the children, she can pay school fees for the children, she can pay medical bills for whoever is sick in the household, and therefore that reduces women's dependence on men. That's number one. Number two, the household food security increases in terms of dietary diversity, in terms of the quantities consumed by members of the household members, that also increases. Yeah, so we are meeting, we are somehow, these interventions are somehow contributing to meeting or goals, you know? No poverty. We're also seeing that we are also increasing, the income of the women is also increasing. The fact that a woman can rear animals, take the animals to the market and get some income, which she can use as she wishes because now her ability to take decision has also been enhanced because now we are challenging all these things through transformative approaches. Yeah, why is it that a woman cannot decide? That barrier is somehow, we start addressing that barrier. Now when the woman sells their livestock, she can take decisions. She can decide on the proceeds, yeah, on how to utilize it. If it is livestock in the home, we see that in some contexts, a woman cannot eat, like in Ghana, a woman cannot eat, women and girls are not allowed, it was unacceptable for them to eat chicken. Chicken of all things.
I think it also happens in some communities in Kenya.
Some parts of the chicken cannot be eaten,
yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
And so when you challenge some of these things, what does that mean? The woman starts eating the prohibited foods, including chicken or livestock source foods, yeah? And that, of course, improves the diversity of nutrients that are being consumed in that particular household. So there's economic empowerment. Again, if there was a norm or a barrier, yeah, that it is unacceptable for a woman to just leave the home, when we bring in the Village Savings and Loans Associations, the VSLAs, yeah, and mostly we bring women on board.
Those are the chamas, right?
The chamas, right. Yes. So what you realize is that women are able to share information. Any person who wants to disseminate information to women, or even a technology like vaccines or even seeds to women, can actually access them in good number through those cooperatives or even the chamas, the VSLAs, those table banking things.
Yes, yes.
And again, they are able to save and borrow against their savings. So again, we mitigate or we challenge the aspect of the barrier to accessing affordable financing to women. And they are able to borrow and guarantee themselves and then use that money. And if we couple it with challenging the norm that a woman cannot own livestock, for example, I can borrow the money, go and buy my chicken, and with time, we can have accumulation of assets, whereby the chicken can increase, sell, buy a goat and a sheep, eventually probably buy a cow, you know? Yeah. So there is that accumulation of assets, gradual accumulation of assets when these challenges are addressed.
Right.
Now, you asked about policies. I think, for example, taking a case scenario of Kenya, I think Kenya, we have very good policies. The biggest challenge is implementation of this and enforcement of some of these challenges. Like, let's look at the land policy in Kenya. It is acceptable for both. It is actually a requirement that both woman and man, a couple, should own land. You know, a man cannot buy land or sell land without the spouse consenting to it. However, we see that, yes, these policies are there. We will buy land with, women will buy land, and I'll become maybe the what do you call them? The not signatory, what do you call them? The witness. Yeah, the wife is going to become the witness. But then the utilization, the decision making, the control over that asset, land, which we have as our family asset, is lacking on the woman. The man will decide how this land is going to be utilized, what is going to be planted where, yeah, what is going to be stocked where. So, for example, the study we did in some 4 counties in Kenya, including Western Kenya and Eastern Kenya, we saw that in as much as improved fodder varieties are availed, like the fodder variety we looked at is bracharia, women are able to access this fodder variety, but the moment they get home, they cannot plant it, they cannot grow it, because they do not have decision-making ability or power. It is the man, they have to depend on the man to give the authorization or to show them where to plant. Sometimes most men will say, no, I will prioritize my crops, which are the cash crops for the men. So what happens to the woman? So this woman is perennially dependent on this man.
Right. Since you bring that up, I think we are being honest. We are having a conversation that hopes to change people's understanding of gender norms. Maybe someone is sitting at home and wondering, why is there a problem for a woman to depend on a man? So I will throw that very divisive question to you.
Wow.
Why is that a problem?
Interesting question. Now, the work we do in my team is geared towards women's empowerment. And what do we talk? When we talk women's empowerment, what do we really mean? It is that process where women gain power or control to make strategic life choices. So in as much as we are saying that what is the problem of the woman being dependent on the man, is the woman comfortable with that scenario? To always dependent, she wants to buy something for the children, for herself, to go to the salon, to contribute to the chama. She has to depend on the husband for that support. Are they comfortable with that situation? It's a very interesting question, because even as we are exploring these things, it has come to a realization that actually some women are very comfortable with the status quo, and probably because they do not know any other side of the, they do not know the other side of the coin, how that would look like, because they have been socialized. Yeah, these things have been normalized in the society, and they think it is normal. For example, it is normal, some women, like in Ethiopia and also in Kenya, they think it is normal for a woman to be beaten by the husband, in as much as we have a law against domestic violence. But as the woman, there's this socialization that if the man doesn't beat me, he doesn't love me. And it's also taken by some communities as a rite of passage. A newlywed woman has to be beaten by the husband as a rite of passage. And because if the woman doesn't go back to the maiden home, then this is a resilient woman. She will stay in this marriage. So it is a rite of passage to prove a point. Yeah. So it is an aspect of, are the women aware of the other side of the coin? And that is now why our work comes in partnership, of course, yeah, with NGOs and governments, and yeah, to try and make them aware, create this critical awareness, reflection and reflective dialogues where they critically question how things are being taken, are happening, and now try and co-create solutions together. Yeah? Yeah. Yes.
Yes, I hear you. Just to put it out there that I am a feminist and very much in support of equal access to opportunities, yeah? So you were talking about policies and the way changing these things, of course it doesn't happen overnight. Yeah. The steps are going to take maybe even generations to achieve. What do you foresee happening in the near future?
Yeah, good question. I think it's an aspect of small, little baby steps towards the right direction, which will get us where we want or we desire to be in future. So for example, if we have projects speaking to each other and with a common goal, that the common goal is women's and girls' empowerment to achieve sustainable development goal number 5. What are the baby steps that we need? What are the steps, the critical steps? Let me not call them baby steps. The critical steps or strategies that we require to get there. Yeah? And then once we keep implementing these tested interventions, tested models, like the gender transformative approaches that I've just highlighted, if we keep implementing them, in different scenarios, cumulatively, we will get there. Yeah, we will achieve. We may take a couple of years to achieve equality, but it's not an aspect of having equality. Really, it's an aspect of, enhancing equity with the end goal being equality. Yeah, so keep implementing these tested strategies, these tested and promising transformative approaches, because cumulatively they are going to get us to where we desire.
Right.
Yeah.
And one of the interventions, of course, includes having personnel that are in these particular value chains. Say agriculture, for example, agricultural sciences. We know that there is a very big discrepancy in terms of the numbers of men versus women who are taking up STEM subjects. And yourself, you're one of those few women who actually are in this field. I would like to hear from you maybe what you are doing at ILRI and even as an individual to bring more women into agriculture sciences projects.
Thank you so much. Yes, ILRI has a capacity development unit which engages graduate fellows, both women and men, and also mentorship programs. So for example, there are mentorship programs with the high schools, the secondary schools around, yeah, whereby those girls are called and they are given a tour of our institution. They're taken to the labs, and they see other women who are working in that domain, to just motivate them. And then we also have conversations. There are conversations with these young girls who are in schools, and to just mentor them, to just inspire them, to just probably change their mindsets. Yeah. So those are some of the things that are happening to just try and do capacity building. Also, we do capacity building of colleagues, because again, we cannot work in isolation, yeah? So the gender team at ILRI tries to work with other programs, yeah, other colleagues, and also build their capacity on the importance of integrating gender, yeah, or mainstreaming gender in all the activities. So somehow, that aspect of capacity building of the young people and also of colleagues in this matter is happening. Yeah.
Right. And what would be your rallying call to maybe the industry, academia as well, in terms of building this capacity?
I would say there's need to think transformative. There's need to think inclusion, yeah? Being more inclusive, yeah? Even for the industries, for whichever sector. The questions, the critical, pertinent questions that need to be asked is what we are doing, who is it benefiting, and how? Who is benefiting, who is losing? What are the benefits? So if it is a technology that a particular organization is working to develop, let's say vaccines, yeah? This end product, who is going to use? Who is it going to benefit? Who is going to adopt? Because again, you'll bring the product, yeah? And that is why there's need to co-create solutions. Not working, thinking that this is what we need to, this is the problem, but bringing evidence, yeah? Working on creating evidence-based solutions. And that is why research is very critical. Because research brings this evidence and disseminates to partners who are maybe working on various solutions, and there's that partnership, or there's that co-creation of these solutions. And of course, when these critical questions are asked, whatever I am doing, who is going to benefit? Who is it for? What are the losses? When those questions are asked and probably answered, then I think we will get towards inclusivity. Because again, when you see a product, this is a product, are women going to access it the same way as the men? If this is a product, this phone, once it is in the market, who is going to access it? Are the young girls going to access it? Are the young boys going to access it? Are the men going to access it? Are the women going to access? Do they have an equal chance? When those questions are asked, if there's this fodder technology, once it is out and released, who is going to benefit? I've heard about what CIA is doing, and they want to revamp the rice production and the cotton production. At the end of the day, who will be doing what? Is it going to increase the labor burden of the women who are already burdened? You know, are we going to increase more work on the women who are already shouldering so much? When the benefits come, no, even when the seeds come, are the women going to have the ability to adopt them and grow them where they wish? Can they decide on that aspect of land utilization? Or the man will say, oh, I'm going to do sugarcane on my land as my cash crop. I'm the household head, period. So what happens? Is the adoption rate of this technology going to happen? So these are some of the things that need to be addressed through transformative approaches. Call the stakeholders, all the stakeholders on board, community leaders, you know, investors, private and public investors, bring them on board. Let this conversation happen. And I'm glad that we have a conference coming up.
Right. Tell us about it.
This is a conference that is happening next month. It's happening in Kiptum from 7th to 9th of October. And this is a conference, this is a platform actually, an international platform, which will bring different people on the table to discuss, to share experiences, to share strategies that are promising, that have been tested, like examples I've been sharing, and to also think what should be the direction, what direction should we take in terms of policy, in terms of interventions, you know, those promising or those interventions that have not worked. What are the challenges? Yet they can actually be transformative. What are the challenges? So this conference is happening in Cape Town, as I have said, from 7th to 9th, and it will bring academia, scientists, researchers from academia, from NGOs, from also the national research institutions, and policymakers as well, and local representatives of the local community, because again, even when you think interventions, who are you intervening for? These farmers are very critical, We need to have at least their participation also to get their views and to see what is happening, and even for them to know what is happening. And that is why I've been talking about co-creation,
Right.
And so this conference has different themes. It is actually focusing on shifting gender norms, just as we've been talking about the gender and social norms. It's also the other theme is advancing women's empowerment in agri-food systems. And probably you need to ask why the agri-food system, Again, the other theme is effective strategies and innovations for enhancing resilience, livelihoods in food, land and water systems. Okay. And then also strategies to strengthen the leadership, the voice and influence of women, youth, indigenous people and socially excluded groups in food, land and water systems. And finally, making agri-food systems more inclusive and empowering women and youth.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course, we are looking forward to hearing the outcomes of that particular conference. And just before we close, you are a researcher. And we know that a big problem in Africa is lack of or limited access to research funding. I need your comment on that and give us your closing remarks while at it.
Wow, that's a tough question. Yeah. Yes, I think, yeah, that's a difficult question for me. Yeah, okay. But I think there are positive efforts and opportunities and also partners who see the value of research, because again we are saying that interventions or any programming need to be evidence-based. So there are organizations, there are partners who see the need and the value of research, because then decisions must be based on evidence. And therefore, for those that, and it's a good number, for those that see the need for this evidence, they are actually bringing in the funds towards this good cause of availing the evidence.
Right.
Yep.
Thank you. 30 seconds for your closing remarks, please.
Maybe what I would say is, for my parting shot, is that I think I would want to say 3 things. Yeah? That it is critical. It is not enough to work around inequalities. To work around what causes the gender gaps. It is not enough. But it is critical to change the structures, the root causes of those inequalities. That's number 1. Yeah? Again, innovations must be paired with inclusion. Any innovation must think about who. Those questions that I've asked. Who? It's for who? How? Who is going to benefit? Who is going to lose? And how? Yeah? Again, this need to combine social interventions, yeah, like the gender transformative approaches that I've been talking about, with technical solutions, like availing the vaccines, yeah, or maybe using drones to distribute vaccines to the last mile, but combining that to enhance adoption and access to this technology with the social component of transforming, addressing the root causes of the inequalities. Finally, women and youth are not just laborers. We shouldn't look at women and men as just laborers. Yeah? They are innovators, they are entrepreneurs, they are decision makers, and they must be brought to the table. Thank you.
They must be brought to the table. Thank you very much, Nelly. I enjoyed having this conversation with you.
Thank you.
Asante. That is Nelly Njiru. She is a gender socioeconomic expert and research officer at International Livestock Research Institute, ILRI, and we have been talking about gender mainstreaming in the livestock industry and how it is important to ensure that women have the opportunities and access to credit as well as land to ensure that they are also having livelihoods that are thriving, as well as reducing poverty in their communities. That is the end of this first conversation. We want to take a quick break here on BizCheck. When we come back, more conversations, including how Kenya is diversifying its tourism portfolio through conferencing and exhibitions. Do stay with us.
Kitovu cha mshikamano ni mahali ambapo familia nzima hukutana, vijana hujifunza stadi za maisha na watoto hukua wakilelewa katika misingi ya imani. Kila mmoja anajisikia sehemu ya familia kubwa ya kijamii. Ni mshikamano huu unaoendeleza tumaini.
Sidqul hadithi, ukweli katika mazungumzo na katika vitendo. Hasa Mtume anasema, je, shikamaneni na ukweli, kwa sababu ukweli yahdi ila albirri, unamuongoza mtu katika mema na mazuri.
Unakula halal ukiwa unachunga amana, basi bila shaka Mwenyezi Mungu Subhanahu wa Ta'ala atakuwa ni mwenye kupatia furaha hapa duniani na kesho akhira.
Wewe ndio Alphonse Makoha Makacha. Sasa ukiniambia wewe huko unanifanya hivi na mkono, si ongea. Ai, mpelekeni mental hospital.
Umesema nilikuwa na wanyama hapo. Ni wanyama ulikuwa unakuja kuutumia ama ulikuwa unakuja kuutumia binadamu?
Acha kunipima akili yangu.
Wewe ndio unanipima. Kwani unafikiri mimi nataka kujua ni kilo ngapi? Ama uliona niko na talanta ya kuongea, si ndio? Ama ya kulia kama wanyama.
Hata kama uko na talanta, wewe anatumia hiyo talanta vibaya. Sikia mheshimiwa.
Hiyo hoteli ni yako?
Hapana.
Hapana. Wewe uliniwekea kuku hapo hivyo? Hapana. Did you serve me? Hapana.
Same question.
Sema kila kitu hapana.
Nini?
It's art, it's culture, it's fun, it's art.
Listen, I want to see the charge sheet and everything else you have against him.
Ndio hizo.
As you put together the report, don't forget to include the amount you're asking to let this case slide.
Unaongea nini wewe? Juu nani alikuwa anajitumia message akitisha pesa?
Aleki. Kwani kimeumana?
Unajua naweza kushikanisha na hii kesi vibaya sana.
Hauwezi nitishia.
Na ndio maana ulijaribu kunionga but mimi ni nani? I hope unaelewa mahali naelekea, si ndio?
Hata siwezi hata kidogo.
Kioko.
Hey, mbona unapiga picha?
Keep smiling.
Unaenda wapi na ndio nimefika?
Sikia, sasa huwezi nitishia sawa?
You have no idea this was all about you, do you?
What do you mean?
Thank you for staying with KBC Channel 1. This is BizCheck. My name is Betty Kiptum. In the second hour, we shall be talking about matters conferencing and exhibition as Kenya tries to diversify its tourism portfolio. And Ms. Kezi Mukiri, who is the convener of Africa Mice Summit, is here with me. But first, we want to take you to the Siaya International Trade and Investment Conference. There's a pre-planning meeting happening in Nairobi, and the governor of Siaya, that's James Orengo, is on the ground. Alan Aoko, our reporter, is standing by to give us a quick interview with him. Alan Aoko, over to you.
With the lady here, that if we can leave the Luo way, but have a budget the other way. The other way. We can be going back home more regularly and do something. Professor Wanyande is the biggest, I think, avocado farmer in Siaya. I think he's got more than 10,000 acres of avocado. Avocado is also the new gold, and we're trying to encourage people to grow avocado. When I was told Professor Wanyande was growing avocado, I also must try. And I started growing some avocado. Makana nijo dala wa mokone wacha ne bwana. Avocado mi keloka idwa kelo nonge chigwe. So I lost a few and pleaded with them, instead of just cutting it up, you can remove one and plant it in your garden. So without saying a lot more, asanteni sana, erurukamano, nyasaye obed kodu. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Governor. Shall we applause properly for the Governor?
That is the Governor for Siaya, James Orengo, there speaking at a pre-planning meeting in Nairobi ahead of the Siaya International Trade and Investment Conference slated for the 14th to 17th of October in Siaya County. And speaking of conferences, we want to discuss their role in just uplifting Kenya's tourism portfolio, meetings, incentives, conferences and exhibitions, that is MICE in short. And with me in studio is Kezi Mukiri. She is a convener of Africa MICE Summit. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Karibu sana. According to the data, 27% of total international arrivals in 2024 were contributed to by MICE. That is a big number.
It's a huge number.
Right.
Yes.
Please tell us, where are we headed?
So thank you. To begin with, the MICE industry is, I just want to unpack it for anybody who might not be very familiar with what MICE is,
Sure.
abbreviated MICE, meetings, incentives, conferences and exhibition. It is what in global terms, tourism terms, is referred to as business tourism. So these are visitors arriving to a destination for business purposes. So they would be coming in for meetings, for conferences, attending trade shows or exhibitions, product launches, or incentives. Incentive, by definition, is where corporate organizations want to incentivize their employees or distributor chain, and so therefore they will organize events of a corporate nature, but they touch on leisure, or what you would call now, in recent terms, bleisure. So going back to the numbers, the MICE industry in Kenya actually has been a silent giant for the tourism sector. You have significant contribution of MICE for the tourism sector. If you look at the numbers, Kenya's tourism sector has been on a steady growth, and a huge part of that is a contribution by MICE. MICE interfaces with our hotels, it accounts for bed spaces, we interface with transport companies, logistics, the entire value chain benefits when you have a conference in town or when you have a business meeting happening. And I can only project growth. There are a number of factors that have positioned Kenya for massive growth for the meetings and conferencing sector.
You say there are factors that are positioning Kenya. So let's talk about why Kenya is attractive, or what Kenya is doing to differentiate itself from competitors in the region.
Excellent. Kenya is strategically positioned for business events or for business tourism. So looking at geographical factors, Kenya is about 13 hours away from any major destination. Kenya is a business hub for the continent of Africa. We jokingly say Kenya is the capital for the continent. That has implications when it comes to MICE. Any global player looking for market entry opportunities on the continent of Africa will want to position themselves in and around Nairobi. And that is why you have a lot of business meetings, conferences happening in Nairobi. But Kenya, in addition, is a diplomatic hub. So you have the United Nations right here in Nairobi, and that is a factor because then you have a lot of UN-type meetings and conferences, and we are seeing infrastructural development happening at the UN Gigiri, and that will definitely have implications on an overflow. Then there are other natural factors like our weather. We have good weather all around the year, and then you have a lot of tourism products that support MICE. Because your business traveler will come to the city for a meeting or a conference, but they will want to also visit the city. We have a national park seated right in the city, and that's the only one, the only capital city in the world that has that. So there are many factors that continue to position Nairobi. Another great factor is tech and innovation. That you have a lot of vibrant tech here, young people that are very innovative and tech-driven. That is a pull factor for corporate organizations to want to host their meetings in Nairobi. You have a highly skilled workforce. Again, that's an attractive factor. If you look at other destinations around the continent, and you start to weigh push-pull factors, Kenya still remains highly competitive and highly attractive for meetings and events. Yeah.
When you're convening that level of events, of course, there are a lot of moving parts. I would like to hear from you what it takes to actually bring such events to Kenya.
So there are events at different levels. There is those international conferences that you have to bid for, and that is collaboration, of course, between government and the private sector, associations. There is association meetings, again, that you're looking at what's rotating across the continent. So you're eyeing at where has this event happened, say this year, maybe in the west of Africa, and is there interest to probably rotate that meeting to the east of Africa? But beyond that, there is international organization type meetings, or your international chamber type of meetings, or corporate organizations. So what it is that you look for to bid, and let me speak from the perspective of the organization owning the event, when they're looking at where to host the meeting, they look for an ecosystem that would make it easier for an organization to decide to bring their meeting to a destination. So for international conferences, we'll be looking at the visa regime, ease of travel, access, generally access. You're looking at what airline service, that destination, how easy is it to get to that destination. You're also looking at what is the infrastructure like. If you're hosting, for example, a conference of 5,000 people, you want to look at, can the destination host that number of people in terms of conferencing infrastructure, but also the hospitality infrastructure, your bed spaces, the hotels, and all of that. Infrastructure also goes to, like your AV, your equipment. What is the level of skill in the market to host a meeting of that caliber? So there's that whole ecosystem of things that a company or an organization or an event owner will be looking for, so as to determine where to host that meeting. Government support is also a critical factor for a certain cadre of meetings. And also, like I said, other experiences outside of the conference room. You want to make sure that your event is holistic. And now there is a big push towards making sure that events are holistic, that you're not just confining people to a conference room, but there's also other experiences in the destination. So the owner of the event will be looking at all those factors. And of course, the cost of living, the cost of delivering the event. So there's all those factors coming together.
Right. You mentioned infrastructure, and I would like to hear from you how we are doing as Kenya, especially in terms of having conferencing space.
So that is an opportunity. I would list it as one of the opportunities that Kenya has to invest and increase investment in infrastructure. But looking at what we already have, I would say that a huge bulk of meetings globally around the year are somewhere between 400, 500 people. Kenya already has a lot of infrastructure that can host those meetings. So I'm starting from a point where I look at what we already have and how we can leverage what we already have. We have a number of hotels, in this country, and conference facilities in this country that can absorb even more meetings than we already have. And the good thing with Kenya is that we have a good geographical spread. It's not just the capital city. We do have conferencing facilities down at the coast. We have Rift Valley as well, and we're seeing a lot of other options emerging across the country, spurred majorly by devolution, and there's growth there. But there is an opportunity for growth because we are limited. If you, for example, were to bid for an international conference where the numbers go to 6,000, 10,000, you run into hurdles, because we don't have a single facility, in Kenya that would be able to host those types of numbers. So as conference organizers, we then get creative on how do you host such numbers. You can have satellite locations. You can host a huge event but in different locations so that then the experience is more diverse and you have more spread of pressure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that is 6,000. I know of events that host over 45,000, 50,000 people. Yeah. Dubai has the capacity for that. And so I would like to know from a regional perspective, who are Kenya's competitors?
Good question. We have, if you look at the ICA rankings, ICA is the International Convention, Congress and Convention Association that ranks destinations on their performance, on the number of meetings happening in a destination. So that particular ranking ranks Nairobi far behind destinations like South Africa and Rwanda. So Kigali has taken a good lead within the East African region. I know that Addis is also doing quite some work around building infrastructure. And infrastructure here, just going back to that, it's not just a convention center. It's also like, the airports, expanding your capacity for arrivals. There's also that. So there's pressure in the region, for Kenya to do much better. But like I said, there's so much going on for Kenya that continues to reinstate Kenya's dominance in the space. And I think even when you look at the rankings, if we broadened our view on the number of meetings and conferences that actually happen in Kenya, if we did our recording correctly, I think we would actually, outshine, some of our competitors. But across the region, destinations are waking up to the opportunity in MICE and doing so much more, including our close neighbors, Uganda, starting to make significant investments in building capacity, human capacity that is, but also venues and spaces. And let me also say, with now the construction of the Bomas Convention Center, I do know that is work also happening at the coast. Kenya continues to increase her capacity for meetings.
Right. And so moving forward, what is it that Kenya needs to do to, so to say, outshine the competition? Because they are coming in pretty fast. I know that there is an international airport to be opened soon in Rwanda. Yeah. They're already ahead in terms of the space. So what can we do to make sure that, we hold on to what we have and continue to improve on it?
Excellent. I think one of the key opportunities for Kenya, and this came out very strongly in the recently concluded Africa MICE Summit, just looking at what are the opportunities. A big one there is to pipeline investment opportunities for the MICE industry, because it is, the MICE industry can be capital heavy as far as investment is concerned. So there is need to pipeline opportunities for public-private partnerships. So what you do is do an assessment of the needs assessment, and then fill the structural gaps. So we identified in the summit some of these structural gaps, like the convention centers, of course, our airports, enhancing access, and not just enlarging what we currently have, although there is need to do that, but also making sure that certain areas of our country also become more reachable. It's also increasing or, sort of opening up the airspace so that you have additional, flights, additional airlines coming into the country. Another key important thing we need to do is increase our human capacity. We don't have very strategic training around MICE in Kenya. We currently only have one university that is teaching events and convention management. We have identified a need for, because people are always the powerhouse for any industry, and especially here in Africa. We have a human resource that really does need to be channeled. So as we are identifying the opportunity in MICE and its capacity to become an economic driver, we equally need to invest in training, building capacity so that you have more certified events professionals. You know, anybody can randomly say they are an event organizer. That's not what I'm talking about. It's a little higher than that. It is your capacity to, you know, build concepts, to bid for large international conferences, and to support those meetings from an ROI perspective. You know, so it's not just putting logistics together. So we do need to train, we need to certify, we need to strengthen associations. In the industry, I'm a member of the Association of Kenya Business Events that's already doing a lot in that space. So there are a lot of opportunities. And also a great opportunity for Kenya is to strengthen government-private sector partnership. And that's already happening, you know, having a lot of conversation between government and private sector. We, as private sector, have over the years, you know, spoken about the need for a national convention bureau, which is a body that is responsible for marketing a destination for MICE, because MICE is a very niche, sort of niche product. And there is already effort, you know, by government to make sure that we do have a convention bureau in place, so that then we are bidding more, we are supporting private sector, we are identifying opportunities. Once that is in place, there is almost a guarantee that, you know, we would outrank our
competitors. Right. We'll talk a little bit more on marketing in just a little bit. I want to stay with the training part of it. Yes. Most of the time, what makes a difference between you going back for an event or not is the experience that you had, you know. Was it smooth? Was your travel smooth? Was the small things, including getting your badge right, you know, small things like that. And I remember there's a time there was an AU convention and hundreds of people were stuck at the entry because they could not get their badges. So the sessions are ongoing. The people needed at those sessions cannot go in. And I would imagine that a lot of the people were like, we're not doing this again, you know? So in the training bit of it, what do you think can be done to ensure that we have enough human resource to handle what we have, the demand that we have, and what is coming as well? Yeah.
So the opportunity for training is at two levels. The first one is making sure that everybody involved in that ecosystem understand their contribution to the success of any conference or event, especially large-scale events that are happening in Kenya. So everybody involved in that ecosystem starts right from the arrivals desk. Right the moment, you know, your international delegates land here, the experience of the event starts.
Yeah.
The experience of the destination begins there. So that means sensitizing the entire ecosystem, from the guys at immigration, you know, the guys who, even the security customs officials, to understand that these are arrivals, these are visitors coming to the destination to attend a conference, and this is an economic driver for our nation. This is an FDI contributor, and you have looked at the numbers. You can see how much, you know, MICE contributes to tourism. So it starts there, sensitize the entire ecosystem. Even your cab drivers, so that you don't have a cab driver telling a visitor, don't you leave your hotel. This is not a good place to be at, you know. So you sensitize the entire ecosystem. Then the second part of it is actual training, you know, and this goes to your hotels, for example. You have hospitality staff interfacing with these visitors. You know, what kind of conversations are happening? So I'm a huge advocate for MICE relevant training, even for our hotel staffs.
Right.
I'm an advocate for the universities integrating training that is current and recent and industry specific, industry relevant kind of training, so that we are not teaching theory in the universities, but that we are giving young people exposure to what are the trends, the current trends in mice. What do you expect when you're interacting with a mice visitor? And then also cascading that training then to companies that actually, in the events ecosystem, those that are frontline soldiers managing these events, to integrate, certain globally expected standards in the management of event. Like you said, experience is everything. From how we receive those people, from your badging process, I advocate for integrate technology, enhance your utilization of technology to, of course, enhance speed, efficiency, accuracy, limit or reduce human error in some of these things, so that then overall the experience of a business tourist is enhanced, that they can say that my experience at the airport was excellent, cab driver, the hotel experience, at the event location itself, because that becomes a destination seller. It becomes, one of the tools that we can then deploy for marketing, that when we say that this is a preferred destination for conferencing, that it is actually holistic.
Right, and of course you've mentioned the gap that there is. Now, working with academia, you say that there is one institution that is already doing this.
Yes.
What more can be done to bring in more academia into this kind of training, and to also avoid what has been happening in the recent past, that we are churning out people who know theory as opposed to the practical side of things? Yeah, what kind of collaboration needs to happen there?
So a great opportunity is integrating everybody into this kind of conversations.
Right.
So and just allow me to make reference to the Africa Mice Summit. The last day of that summit focused on people and what needs to be done. And who were in the room is academia, is industry, is the hotels, is government. Integrate all this into this conversation. By doing that, you not only sensitize academia, but you also show them what the opportunity is.
Right.
That there is actually an opportunity right here for you to enhance your offering, for you to increase, your course offering, but also there's the opportunity for academia to interact with industry, because we in industry we are customer facing. We're facing the customer. We can tell what the trends are, what the demands are, and so when there's continuous interaction between academia and industry, then feedback is going both ways. That we are telling academia this is where the half-baked feedback is coming from, and this is what you need to work on. The good thing is that a lot of the universities we are working with are very keen to explore the opportunity. They are keen to have the students attached in companies that are doing international events or high-level type of events, so that then they learn on the job. So that collaboration is very essential. And then, like I said, the role of the associations. The associations hold a very important role when it comes to the development of mice in any destination. The associations have a responsibility to put order in a sector, because you have this particular industry being very unregulated and unstructured. It is a role of associations to put structure, to self-regulate, so that then you minimize error, you minimize, fraud or experiences that are negative, which then dent the image of the destination. And then the associations also have a role to continuously educate their members on what are the emerging trends and what are the opportunities.
Right, those are important pointers. Let's now go back to the point of marketing. Marketing Kenya as even a destination. Where are we in terms of selling Kenya, getting those conferences, international events, and just selling Kenya as a destination to the tourist?
Yeah, so I think we've done a fantastic job selling Kenya for wildlife, for the beaches, for leisure generally. I see quite an opportunity to promote Kenya for business. You know, like I said, Kenya is a business hub. It is a business hub. And so there is need to continuously, and for me, I say for MICE, the champion starts, of course, with the head of state. And I think he's doing a good job of fetching, you know, conferences out there and bringing them home. But it goes all the way. Your cabinet, your ambassadors, every frontline Kenyan has a responsibility to promote the destination for MICE, so that by the time you are getting to the point of your tourism body, you already have a lot of synchronicity from your head of state to your cabinet to your ambassadors to even private sector to your chamber of commerce. That's an opportunity to promote Kenya for MICE. So it is us coming to a point where we understand as a destination what is the potential for MICE. You know, you have economies that have developed purely on MICE, and you give Dubai as an example, Singapore as well, that have leveraged with excellence the opportunity in business events. So when you study that, you begin to see the opportunity to catalyze trade and investment through this one channel. Of course, there are many others, but I'm here talking about this one channel. And then all of us become ambassadors, you know, to promote the destination for MICE. There are many events, many meetings across the world, many opportunities that happen every time there is an international conference happening. There's always the opportunity to bid for the next. So we all must be conscious, where is the opportunity to bid? But also coming to the question on specifically marketing the destination, we need to diversify the product portfolio so that we are not only, of course, marketing our wildlife or bush experiences, which are excellent, or our beach product, again, which is excellent, but to diversify that to move to meetings, and there are many, many other tourism products. And I think the Ministry of Tourism, you know, is well aware, and they're already doing a lot around that. Yeah, so our pitch need to be business-like. We need to speak to the business traveler in a language that they understand. We need to speak to global corporate organizations on why Kenya, you know, and why now. And then lastly, on marketing, we need to find a way to integrate the business tourism product with the other experiences. So for example, when it comes to the bush, you know, come up with products like conferencing in the bush. When it comes to the beach, you know, conference on the beach, so that we are leveraging on our already known, well-known products to pitch in the conferencing opportunities.
And of course, the beauty about conferences and events is that their impact, the economic impact, goes beyond the time when that particular conference is happening. Of course, there's a boom in the hospitality industry, you know, tours and travel. But beyond that, there are conversations that happen. There are business deals that take place. Yeah,
absolutely. So you have transfer of knowledge that happens, and I mean, knowledge is priceless. When you have a certain caliber of a meeting happening in Kenya, there is definitely transfer of knowledge. There's transfer of technology that happens. There is, of course, business pipelines that are created right there. You know, the deal making, the business to business conversations. So the impact does not end in the 2 or 3 days that the conference lasts. That impact is, you know, it outlives the conference. I've managed conferences where the conference ended and everybody went back home. But out of the conversations that started there, businesses were started in Kenya, partnerships, joint ventures, you know, and so you can see the impact of meetings long after, you know, that calendar has been shut and, you know, people have folded the equipment and gone back home. You have a more empowered SME sector, because SMEs, by the way, benefit very greatly from the meetings industry, from your local caterer to your cab driver. Even hairdressers will benefit when we are all going into a conference. So SMEs are supporting structure for the maize industry, and the impact is significant.
It's really huge. There's a global tech conference. It's called GTEX that normally happens. Global is Dubai, Africa is Morocco, and last year Nigeria managed to get their first edition that happened this year. I'm sure you're aware, being in the events industry. And I was in Dubai when this happened, and they said that they had been bidding for 10 years. 10 years.
It takes a while.
Yeah.
It takes a while. And that is why it is important for a destination to continuously build pipelines. Build your pipelines. So this year, this is what we are chasing. Because some of those events will take years to come to your destination. Those very large, high impact events. So, and that is now the work of our convention bureau. To scout around, to build pipelines, start building certain relationships so that then you're able to net those events. But I'm also going to say that I keep saying that the maturity of a destination or the maturity of a MICE player or an events company like ourselves is when you not only rely on customer business, but when you can actually conceptualize your own events. And I think that's an opportunity for Kenya to do. Ideate. You create your own events. Every venue should be able to do that. Hotels should be able to do that, so that then you're able to maintain your pipeline as you're waiting for these larger events. You do have events that are ongoing. Important to state that the meetings and events industry, part of why it is so critical is that it is able to stabilize the tourism sector. You know that tourism will have high season, low season. For meetings, we can have meetings and conferences all year round. So it is a perfect stabilizer for the tourism industry, meaning you can generate revenue out of this space throughout the year. And what that would do is then, reduce the fluctuations for especially our city hotels, or even other hospitality players across the continent. Across the country. You will go to certain hotels at certain times of the year, and they look like ghost spaces. So and that's why I'm a huge advocate for conceptualize, build concepts, create your own events, curate ideas, and those could come from your own context. If you are in the coast, curate ideas around your cultural heritage that then drive traffic to your venue.
I like that you mentioned that, and of course earlier we saw the CIA International Conference. I think counties are waking up to this space in terms of exposing their own products to investment, right?
Absolutely. And Kenya is such a beautiful example of lying giants, sleeping giants. Who knew our counties have the capacity to host meetings at the scale, at which they're starting to host them? When you look at the investment conferences happening across the country, that is an opportunity even for the counties to develop MICE products, MICE infrastructure. So we are not just talking about MICE at a national level. It's also across the 47 counties. And to structure your MICE products around your ecosystem as a county, because that's how you differentiate. In more MICE developed destinations like, on the continent like South Africa, you will find that the competition is now even on cities within the country. So it's not country to country, it is city to city or province to province. And we want to see that happen in Kenya. And I think that the devolution conferences, already you can see the impact. When you host the devolution conference in Homa Bay, look at the ecosystem and what happens around that. When you do host an investment conference, in Kilifi, like I did end of last year, or Siaya now, you look at the ecosystem around there, you can see the catalytic effect of that event. And it should not end there, with the pulling down of the tents that are being set up in primary schools. No, it should motivate leaders and private sector players to look at what is the investment opportunity, so that this can be a continuing phenomenon. so that it's not a once in 2 years kind of thing or once in whatever. What do we need to invest in a location like that so that you're continuously driving numbers? And it is important because when we look at the trends for international meetings, delegates are looking for newer experiences. They're not just looking to come to the capital cities. They're looking at what else does your destination present. And for us as conference planners, it's the continuous pressure to identify new locations, new opportunities, new experiences. And here's a challenge to the counties. Develop MICE infrastructure and be serious about it, because that's a revenue earner.
Very important pointers there. As we come to a close of the conversation, I'd like to give you 2 minutes to give us your closing remarks. What is the way forward? What's the future of MICE in this country?
Excellent. I think my very, very strong pointer would be around catalyzing investment for the sector. Getting to a place where we have a playbook where investors know what the opportunities are and that they will be able to invest, because there's money to invest. It's just, and I keep giving the example, why would you have, investors build malls that have near zero occupancy? What if they knew the opportunity to build convention centers? So it's just a misalignment, a miscommunication, or a mispackaging. And fortunately, we are all working together to fix that. So pipeline the investment opportunity in the sector. Number 2, market the destination with MICE at the heart of the marketing strategy, not on the sidelines. Market the destination with MICE at the heart of it. And then number 3, the continuous development of human capital. Let's leverage on our young people. Africa has, the youngest population, and the MICE, the events industry, is serviced largely by young people. So we need to invest a lot in educating, in presenting opportunities, even opportunities for innovation, tech innovation. We import a lot of technology for the meetings and event space, and I do believe our young people have capacity to create those solutions. So we are working with them through something we call the Future Leaders Forum to build innovations that can then be utilized in the meetings and event space across the continent.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your thoughts and sharing your expertise with us on matters MICE.
Asante
sana. That is Kezi Mukiri, who is the convener of Africa MICE Summit. And we have been talking about the space of meetings, conferences, incentives and exhibitions, short form MICE, in ensuring that Kenya is diversifying its tourism portfolio and taking advantage of this particular space to grow its economy. Thank you very much for watching BizCheck. That is the end of the program. Of course, Kurunzi Mashinani is coming up with Sheila Yogo. My name is Betty Kiptum. Do enjoy the rest of your viewing. Bye-bye.
The Japanese are among the world's heaviest users of rail transportation. How heavy? Well, every day, nearly 2.7 million commuters pass through this station alone. Most people use the trains to travel to work or school. Inside the stations, it's not just busy commuters. Shops and services